and good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming and welcome to this webinar about TSP Roth in-plan conversions. My name is Warren Covert. I'm a financial planner and investment advisor. I am also the founder of GFP, financial planning firm focused on the financial well-being of federal employees. I'm a fiduciary. I hold a FINRA Series 65 license, enabling me to work as an investment advisor. And I hold a business degree from the Haarlem Business School in the Netherlands. That's also where my accent is from. If you hear any, I'm a dual citizen. And prior to starting my own firm, I've also worked at the Department of State. So I have my own TSP and navigated the system you are all in firsthand. I'm going to turn off my camera for the rest of this webinar so that we can focus on the slides. And again, thanks all for attending. So before we continue, I'd like to go over this disclaimer. It says that everything in this presentation is educational in nature. And you'll see a small disclaimer underneath every slide as well, just to reiterate this point. It's not personalized advice, and if you want any personalized advice, just reach out to me and we'll see how we can help you. This is the agenda for today. We're going to talk about Roth versus traditional retirement savings, the new TSP Roth in-plan conversion feature. I wanted to host this webinar before this feature goes live next year to help people avoid make any mistakes or trigger any unnecessary tax bills, which we're going to go into later in this webinar. We're also going to go over if you should convert your traditional or pre-tax funds, if so, how, and what kind of tax implications a conversion may have. And there's a case study at the end to see how Roth conversion strategies, specifically in-plan conversion strategies, can compound over time. There's a Q&A in the chat as well in case you have any questions or comments. So without further ado, when you have a TSP, you can save in two ways for retirement: the traditional way or pre-tax way, and the Roth way or the after-tax way. So with traditional savings, with each paycheck, you'll put a portion of your paycheck into your TSP before you pay income tax on those savings. By the time you retire and you withdraw those funds from your TSP, the IRS will charge you income tax on those savings and those withdrawals, which creates a taxable income in retirement. So you'll get taxed on both your principal and your gains. When you contribute Roth or after-tax funds to your TSP, you'll pay tax on your savings today, but in retirement, when you withdraw those funds, both the principal and the gains can come out tax-free. So with traditional, you'll save money on taxes now, and with Roth, you'll save money on taxes in the future. And Roth savings add flexibility to your whole retirement strategy. This flexibility comes from a couple of different directions. First, Roth withdrawals don't raise your taxable income. This is because the savings were already counted as taxable income when you are working and you contributed. So by not having those savings contribute to your taxable income in retirement, you're potentially lower your lifetime tax bill. Having a lower taxable income in retirement is beneficial as well when we're thinking about Medicare and Social Security, because the higher your taxable income in retirement, the more you pay for your Medicare and the higher the portion of Social Security that will get taxed. And lastly, Roth savings are not subject to RMDs. Pre-tax or traditional savings are subject to RMDs. And what these are, for those of you not familiar with them, by the time your mid-70s roll around, when according to research, your spending actually naturally goes down, right at that time, the IRS will force you to take withdrawals from your pre-tax or traditional TSP, which causes your taxable income to spike, thereby your tax bill, and those increases can increase what you pay for your Medicare and Social Security. So having a high taxable income in retirement is not always ideal, and this new Roth in-plan conversion feature is yet another tool that TSP handed you to enable you to plan for a tax-efficient retirement. So this new TSP Roth in-plan conversion feature will go live in January, and it will let you move pre-tax or traditional funds into your after-tax or Roth account, all without leaving your TSP. So that money stays in your TSP account. So a Roth conversion is moving money from your traditional to your Roth account. And because when you put this money in your traditional account, it was not taxed or counted as taxable income by the IRS. When you convert this money to Roth, that money will get treated as taxable income for the year. So on paper, on your tax return, you made more money that year, but you didn't actually receive more money. You just created more after-tax funds. And there's no one single right time to do a conversion. In fact, if you convert your whole pre-tax or traditional balance all at once, you might spike your taxable income in any given year, thereby increasing your tax bill unnecessary, and the cost for that conversion will be unnecessarily high. Instead, for most people, it's beneficial to convert a little bit of money over a set period of years. If in retirement you expect to be in a similar or higher tax bracket, might be worth it to look at implementing a Roth conversion strategy during your working years so that you pay taxes at the rate you're paying taxes while you are working instead of your projected income tax rate in retirement. Now, I often get the question, how will I know what my income tax rate is in retirement? I've helped a lot of people figure this out, and the gist of this is the following. So when you're a federal employee, your income in retirement, so let's call it your retirement paycheck, consists of at least 3 different factors. You'll get your FERS or FSPS annuity, which is counted as taxable income if you hit your minimum amount of service years. Then you have Social Security, second pillar, also taxable income in retirement. And third, you'll have your TSP. Now, pre-tax savings will count towards your taxable income, but after-tax savings will not. When you add these pillars up, and I have pretty precise projections of what the income tax brackets are going to be in between now and 50 years, we can estimate your retirement paycheck and thereby making a good assumption of whether it would be beneficial to roll funds from your pre-tax into your after-tax account. So those are 3 pillars of the retirement paycheck, but many people that I've seen have more streams of income. They own dividend-paying stocks, perhaps they own a rental, or in retirement, they take another side job. Every retirement paycheck is unique. Now, other good times to do Roth conversions during your working years is when you or your spouse expect to be in a lower income year. Your federal tax bracket will probably be lower during those years as well, which means that a Roth conversion will be done at a lower tax rate. And if you are convinced that Congress is going to increase the tax rates between now and when you retire, it might be a good idea to do a conversion today to lock in today's rate and not pay the future's higher tax rates. And these are 2 additional opportunities specifically for federal employees when thinking about Roth conversions. So when you just started out or you're mid-career and you're not yet on top of the federal pay scale and you're carrying a large pre-tax balance from a previous job. So think of a 401k that you might have. You can roll that plan into your TSP. And once it's into your TSP, starting next year, you can roll those earnings into your Roth TSP, thereby working on filling up your after-tax retirement savings. So even if your previous employer didn't allow to roll those funds over, by simply rolling them into your TSP, you're not beholden to those restrictions anymore. If you don't have a Roth TSP, this new tool is still for you. Your first conversion or your first contribution will automatically create your Roth TSP. On the other hand, if you've only ever contributed Roth dollars, you still have a pre-tax balance. This is because your agency match is always traditional. If you want to find out exactly how much pre-tax and after-tax dollars you have in your account, you can go to tsp.gov and go to the contributions subtab. There you see a breakdown of where every dollar is and what it is doing for you. So a conversion is a taxable event. So pre-tax to after-tax, any dollar goes this route is charged as taxable income, and those dollars are charged at your marginal income rate. This is the rate that the last dollar, the highest dollar that you make, is taxed at. So let's say you're in a 22% federal tax rate and you roll over $10,000 in a given year. That means there's a $2,200 tax bill that's due around April 15 of the next year, together with all your other income taxes. A TSP has already come out and said that they cannot withhold or pay those funds to the IRS on your behalf. So that $2,200 bill has to be paid with funds from outside of your TSP. So this can be from your salary or from your savings. But the point here is that if you roll some pre-tax money to your Roth account, make sure you plan to have the funds available to pay for the tax bill that this is going to create, because this cannot come out of your TSP. So when we're working on filling on those Roth retirement savings, we're essentially lowering our retirement taxable income. But this doesn't mean that we have less money available. We just have less taxable income in retirement, which is good because this helps us keep the taxes on our Social Security down, and it also can help us keep our Medicare premiums under a certain level. And you're always going to have some taxable income in retirement as a federal employee. So you have Social Security, some TSP withdrawals. Some will probably always be in your pre-tax TSP because of that agency match. Then you have your pension, your FERS, FSPS, the pension system that's counted as a taxable income in retirement, and you may have other income source. So your retirement paycheck looks very different than your paycheck today because it's going to come from different sources, and some of those sources are pre-tax or taxable, and some of those sources are non-taxable if you plan for them accordingly. So what we're really aiming for in retirement is something called tax diversification, which means you'll have savings from 3 different buckets. You have a taxable bucket, so an investment account at Fidelity, a Schwab, or Vanguard, a tax deferred or traditional TSP, and a tax-free or Roth TSP. Strategic withdrawals from any of these buckets can help you manage your tax brackets in retirement on a year-by-year basis. Now, having some taxable income in retirement is good because there's always the standard deduction that still counts when you're retired, and the first couple of federal income tax rates are likely lower than what you're seeing right now in your working years, especially when you're mid or later in your career. So paying 10 to 12% federal taxes in retirement is much more beneficial than paying 22, 24, maybe even in the 30s today. Now, when we talk about tax diversification in retirement, imagine you'll need access to $30,000 in a given year in retirement. If that $30,000 is the only income, only taxable income you're going to see that year, then the standard deduction is $30,000. Now, if you withdraw that from your pre-tax account, this money went into your pre-tax account tax-free, and because you withdraw it underneath the standard deduction, it comes out tax-free. So in effect, you've never paid taxes on this $30,000. However, often it doesn't play out like that. So let's imagine we're in the 22% federal tax bracket. You may have to withdraw $36,600 just to have $30,000 spending money in retirement. Now, if you're properly tax diversified and you have a taxable account, which are subject to favorable tax rates, if you meet certain requirements, so you hold your investments in that account for longer than 1 year, the tax rate will be 15%. So $30,000 is going to cost you $34,500. And if you pull that $30,000 from your Roth account, you only have to withdraw $30,000 because withdrawals from that account are tax-free. These are some of the options that tax diversification and proper retirement planning can give you. But like many financial strategies, it's important to implement these strategies when you're far out of retirement or before retirement so that you can reap the maximum benefits that these type of strategies have to offer. We're going to look at a case study. We're going to look at a mid-career family in Washington, D.C. one civil servant in the family with prior private sector experience, and he has a regular 401k or traditional TSP, which he rolled over in his TSP. Then Jane works for a nonprofit and has a 403b, which is really a traditional TSP, but you can't call it that because she doesn't work for the federal government. And she has a Roth IRA, have one child, and the amounts we're going to see are in today's dollars. And the goal here is to illustrate what type of outcomes a properly executed Roth conversion strategy can produce and how outcomes can compound over time. So meet the Smith family. Their net worth is over $700,000. This is a case study, that's why all the numbers are nice and round for easy calculations. So John has his traditional TSP, rolled his prior 401k over into that plan. He has $250,000 in there. He just found out about the Roth TSP, $6,500 in there, and he opened a 529 for their daughter, which is a college savings plan, $80,000. Then he has a mortgage in his name for a home they own together. They have a joint investment account, which is a taxable account. Will turn into the taxable income bucket in retirement. And they have an emergency fund, $30,000 to hold them over for a couple of months. Jane has this 403b, so really her traditional TSP. She puts pre-tax money in that, and a Roth IRA where she saves up after-tax money. Here we're going to take a look at their projected income for the next couple of years. Which is important. It is about $150 after deductions and pre-tax savings. Goes up every year, bonuses, promotions. And what we're going to look at here is they are in the 22% federal tax bracket and they're looking to stay there. So when they convert money from traditional to Roth, they don't want to be taxed at a 24% federal tax rate. This slide shows their income until the end of their financial plan. Let me explain what we're seeing here. These lines are the federal tax bracket, and this line is the 22% tax bracket. So everything above will get taxed at 24%, anything below at 22%. And the blue area here, their projected taxable income if they do not deploy a Roth conversion strategy. We'll see here in their mid-70s when RMDs come into play, the IRS will push their taxable income all the way up in a 24% federal tax bracket just when their spending naturally goes down because they are getting older, enjoying family. They don't have the same needs anymore that they had a couple of years anymore. And the blue graph here shows their taxable income. If they do deploy a Roth conversion strategy and if executed correctly and timely, they can have access to about $10.5 million more in after-tax money during their retirement. So what happens here is that they increase their taxable income during their working years while they can afford the extra taxes while staying in the 22% federal tax bracket. Near when they hope to retire, around 63, their taxable income naturally drops, but they do some more Roth conversions early in retirement so that for the rest of their retirement, they pay about 10% of federal income taxes. So they won't be bothered by any RMDs that they otherwise would have had to do. Here the blue area again is there. What would happen if the Smiths would not deploy a Roth conversion strategy? We're looking at their projected lifetime federal tax bill, which, as you can see here, if they don't do anything, they're going to pay in their last year here of RMDs about $200,000 in federal income taxes. However, when they do deploy this Roth conversion strategy, they increase their tax bill slightly during their working years when they can pay the extra taxes with their income and other cash flow, and for the rest of their retirement, they don't really have to worry about high tax bills anymore. And because they pay the taxes here when they want to and when they can, they lower their lifetime tax bill with over $2 million in federal income taxes. Let's look at the details behind such a Roth conversion strategy. See a lot of numbers here, but we're gonna guide you through them. In this column, we'll see every year how much money they can convert without breaking into the next federal tax bracket. So they'll stay in a 22% federal tax bracket. And this is really the maximum amount they can convert. So when they convert, they pull money from their tax deferred account balance. So John's traditional TSP. Also included is Jane's 403b. She keeps contributing to that plan. That's why the account balance keeps growing, but it doesn't grow really fast. Instead, what we'll see is explosive growth in their tax-free or Roth accounts. This comes from a couple of factors. First, John convert any amount underneath this number from this account into the Roth account. He'll keep contributing to the Roth account, and because they're properly invested, will account for some compounded growth as well. So both accounts keep growing, but the Roth account grows much faster to properly tax diversify their income in retirement. So this is the Smiths' projected income after they implement a Roth conversion strategy. I showed their income before the conversions. It was about $150,000 in their early to mid 40s. Right now, it's a little more than that, about a third, and they can do that all without breaking into the next federal tax bracket. So they'll stay in the 22% bracket, and it's not shown on the slide, but they'll never reach that 24% bracket. Here, for contrast, we'll have their income without the conversions and still the 22% federal tax bracket. Now, of course, they have to pay taxes on those conversions, and we're going to take a look at their tax return for 2029. This is how the IRS knows exactly how much money the Smiths owe them. So by doing that conversion in your TSP, instead of taking the money out and putting it in a Roth IRA, you'll eliminate some paperwork and administrative burdens that come with taking money out of the plan. Instead, by keeping the money in the plan, just gets added to your taxable income for the year, and there are not many complications or extra burdens on the administrative sides by keeping it all in your TSP. And this is the summary of the Roth conversion strategy and the results. So in retirement, they have access to about $10.5 million more in after-tax money. So it would have been 15 million on average. That amount increased to 25 million, and that amount is not subject to RMDs. So they can keep it in their Roth account on a tax-free basis. So when you have to pull money out of your traditional TSP, not only do you increase your income taxes, you'll also remove that money from the tax-deferred status. Whereas in your Roth account, you can keep it in your tax advantage plan for as long as you leave it there. It's another benefit. Plus, when you inherit a Roth account, or when one of your heirs inherits a Roth account, they won't have to pay income tax on those savings again. So if their daughter ends up landing a really good job and paying more taxes than her parents, she'll be in a higher tax bracket potentially. She will not have to pay money on any Roth inheritance that she will receive. Second, their federal income tax bill, their lifetime federal income tax bill, gets decreased with about $2 million over the lifetime. So the blue graph is what would have been their bill, green is what will be their bill, and they potentially realize those tax savings and higher Roth balances really by navigating those RMDs in their mid-70s. So by putting a proper Roth conversion strategy in place, they can withdraw about $11.5 million less in required minimum withdrawals. So this amount here is money that they have full control over when they roll it in their Roth plan, as opposed to leaving it in their traditional TSP, where the IRS would have told them in their mid-70s, Smith family, you are going to have to withdraw this amount. So really, by planning for how and when they pay their taxes during their working years, they get to keep a lot more of the money that they already earned. So these strategies, they're not magic, they really worked for that money, but by making smart decisions on a long timeline, they really get to keep a lot more of it than just leaving it in their traditional plans. But to summarize what we've talked about today, so Roth conversions can be a powerful tool to build long-term, even generational tax-efficient wealth. Roth income in retirement gives you flexibility and has the potential to also keep the cost you pay for Medicare and Social Security lower. However, having some taxable income in retirement has its advantages, but as a federal employee, you're going to have a minimum amount of taxable income already. So by knowing how much this amount would be in advance, you can really fine-tune your Roth conversion strategy and have a clear strategy before you convert to avoid any surprises. And really don't convert everything at once. Once this tool becomes available in January, do it over multiple years so that you can reap the most benefits and let the results compound.